Hello guys, Robert1 here, coming at you with a new Yu-Gi-Oh video, and in today's Yu-Gi-Oh video, I'm going to be giving you guys a hand testing video on the deck that I took to the Brotherhood 1K one day, and that deck is obviously Phantom Knights. And in all honesty, I really like this deck. This deck is so much fun to play and has so many different combos and so many different avenues of play. Mainly normally starting off with Cherubini because of, you know, he's Cherubini, and the late game is just really different all the time, which I really enjoy, seeing as that's one of the favorite playstyles I have and one of the reasons why I like Salamangreat so much at the beginning of Salamangreat. But today I'm going to be doing a hand testing video on this deck, and I'm going to basically show you guys some of the combos you can do, some of the routes you can take, and the end boards that you're typically aiming to end on. So guys, I'm just going to shuffle it up. We're going to see if we can get some random hands. Hopefully we won't get any brick hands. It can happen, every deck can brick, but obviously we don't want to be seeing those brick hands. So first test hands, let's go and see what we get. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the first hand, let's go. So the first test hand we have is Droplets, really good card. Tour Guides, that's full combo. Tracker, that's also a combo. The Shade Brigandine and a Graph. That's actually a bit annoying. Just for the fact that we opened the Graph. You never really want to open the Graph in your opening hand, but we opened it with Tour Guide, so if I did want to, I could just go ahead and go full combo by normal summoning the Tour Guide and special summoning the Graph from hand with the Tour Guide effect. But I don't want to do that because that's kind of bad. But we're going to see what we can do with this hand nonetheless. So starting off, we're going to go ahead and normal summon the Tour Guide, and you know what? We will use the effect to summon the Graph from the hand, because I want to show you how powerful the Graph and the Tour Guide together are, because this is literally normally full combo. Normally you want to special summon the Graph from deck, but obviously we opened it this one time, so you gotta deal with what you got. So we summon the Graph from the hand, and then we're going to go ahead and link these two and summon out Cherubini, Melibranch of the Burning Abyss. Or sorry, not Melibranch of the Burning Abyss, Ebon, Angel of the Burning Abyss. We then get to go ahead and trigger our Graph, which will special summon one Burning Abyss monster from our deck, which is the only other Burning Abyss monster in the deck because we only main 2 Burning Abysses. And that is Seer, Melibranch of the Burning Abyss. You don't typically want to open up either of your BAs, but as long as you can get 2 level 3s on board, it's not that big of a deal, 9 times out of 10. So we summon Seer to the board. We're then going to go ahead and use Cherubini's effect to go ahead and send to the graveyard 1 Phantom Knights, well, 1 level 3 monster from our deck to the graveyard. But the one we're going to send to the graveyard is a Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak. Reason behind that being, it's pretty much just a free extender, and if we do end up getting hit by a Imperm or Ash on our Bardiche, then we can still go off, so it's fine if we put the Cloak in, because we're going to end up putting the Torn Scale in after the Bardiche. So now we're going to go ahead and link these two though, and we're going to summon the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche, and then we're going to trigger the Seer Burning Abyss to summon out the Ebon Angel, Cherubini. We're then going to go ahead and use Rusty Bardiche to go ahead and send to graveyard a Phantom Knights of Torn Scale. And there it is. And we're going to go ahead and set to our board a Fogblade. Now, normally in the combo, you wouldn't set the Fogblade, you would set the Shade Brigandine, but we opened the Shade Brigandine, so we have to go this route, which is a bit annoying, but it's fine as well. So, from that point onwards, we are going to go ahead and, at this point, it really depends on how you want to play the game. You could go 2 different routes. You could go ahead and just banish the Ancient Cloak, summon the Scales, and go ahead and try to do something there, and then just go into an Appaloosa or something to try and play around like a Nibiru or something, and then still have some plays. But also, a slight misplay that I just kind of made that I just realized was I could have summoned the Tracker to the board while the Seer was on the board, because it wouldn't die, because the Ebon, the Ebon Angel here, and then we'd be able to go ahead and link these two into the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche, and then just go Angel, Tracker, and the Shade Brigandine straight into Appaloosa and still be able to play through there. But we made that mistake. It's fine. We can still play through it. So we're gonna play as if we're not getting hand trapped, I guess, for this hand, which is actually a lot better, because if you don't think your opponent has a hand trap, you normally just go completely nuts. So you go Ancient Cloak effect here, and you're gonna go ahead and add from your deck to our hand a Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. very good card to add here. It's just a really insane card that allows you to go off. So we get the boots, and then we're going to trigger the Torn Scales because a Phantom Knights card was banished. So we special summon it from the graveyard. We're then going to go ahead and use the effect of our boots to special summon itself. And after that, we're going to go ahead and use the... You see, at this point, it's like, do I want to use the Torn Scale or not? Because you can use the Torn Scale, but you don't have to. Like, there's a couple of things you could do here that you don't really care about. You could use the Torn Scale, send the gloves to the grave, that guarantees you additional extenders. Normally, I think I'll discard the droplets in that case, but at the same time, I kind of want to keep the droplets because it's just a really strong card. But we'll discard it because we don't know what our opponent is playing. So we'll discard the droplets, and we'll send to graveyard a... Where is it? Sorry, I'm looking at it right there. The Ragged Gloves. And the reason we send the Ragged Gloves to grave is because it gives us options on a multitude of different cards we can send to graveyard, because we can go ahead and banish it from the graveyard to go ahead and send any Phantom Knight cards from our graveyard, from our deck to the graveyard, which is just really, really nice there as well. So we've got the Torn Scales, we've got the boots. We're going to then go ahead and overlay these two and make a Levianeer the Sea Dragon. We'll use the Levianeer the Sea Dragon to detach, the boots, to special summon back the Ancient Cloak from our graveyard. We're, well, in attack mode. And we also go ahead and after that use the Ancient Cloak to go ahead and switch it to defense to boost this by 800 attack into our opponent's end phase. So it just makes it slightly bigger and makes it harder to beat over. So we currently have this in graveyard, which is quite a lot of resources still, so we can still go quite far. But what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and special summon the Psychic Tracker, and then we're going to go ahead and set this, and we're going to flip the Ragged Gloves, the Shade Brigandine, and we're going to special summon it. We're then going to go ahead and just link these guys now, making our opponent think we're going to go into another play, potentially, and just go ahead and make the Appaloosa that I've dropped on the floor. Gotta love dropping your cards mid-video. But yeah, we make Appaloosa with free materials. Now, you could do this at the end of a combo, but I'm choosing to do it here because I plan on going slightly further and having a much better board in the end of this. So yeah, so we go ahead and do that. We're going to then go ahead and banish the Ragged Gloves, which will allow me to send a Fogblade to the graveyard, which will then banish and use to go ahead and special summon a Phantom Knight monster from our graveyard. The only target we have is the Silent Boots, so we'll special summon that in defense, and then we'll overlay these two, summoning out the No, you don't summon out the Levianeer, you summon out the Dante here. Now, the difference you could do here as well, if you didn't want to go ahead and summon the Dante and made the Appaloosa later in the combo, is you could make 2 Levianeer, and then just go ahead and use the third monster you summon off the Levianeer, keeping the tracker in hand, to go ahead and have more Phantom Knights for next turn, and also just go ahead and make the Appaloosa with free materials, and also go into what we're going to go into in a minute. But the reason I'd like to make the Dante is because you can go ahead and use the Dante, when you send it to graveyard, you can use it to go ahead and just add back Seer. And the good thing about that is that you can just Seer Dante loop for a long time and survive for a long time in a lot of the cases. So it's just like, it's really hard for your opponent to out that most times unless they have a way to banish. So I really do like the Seer Dante loop in this deck, which is why I tend to make the Dante or the Appaloosa first and then make a Dante later on, or just try to have that additional extender to guarantee that I can make the Dante, because it's just really good. And also you could revive a Cherubini at some point as well, just so you can go into other plays there too, which is really nice. So yeah, just something about that. But next we're going to go ahead and then overlay these two, not using the Dante. Typically you don't want to use the Dante in this deck because Dante doesn't really mill you anything good unless you've got like an empty graveyard and you could use some Phantom Knights. You're not going to do it. So, but you overlay the Dante and the Levianeer into the Utopic Future, and then you go into the Utopic Future Draco, or Draco Future, sorry, which is an insane card in this deck because this is essentially a monster negate that says you can go ahead and steal your opponent's monster. So if you negate something face up on the board, you just steal the monster and it can't be destroyed by anything, which is really, really nice. And the last thing we're going to do on this turn is we're going to banish the Boots in our grave. And we're going to go ahead and grab us a Fogblade, wherever it may be. So we grab the last Fogblade in the deck and we set it. And pretty much our end board with that hand is, well, Shade Brigandine, Appaloosa, Utopic Future, and 2 Fogblades. So yeah, that's actually not a bad start. Like, honestly, we used our entire hand to do it, but you don't always have to use your entire hand to make this kind of board. Like normally the tour guide and one additional extender can make Appaloosa have one fog blade and also the Utopic Future Draco with 3 materials on the board, just by using normally a tour guide and one extender. Like that's normally the full combo, but I did it in a weird way, and also we drew the Shade Brigandine, so we did it like this. But yeah, like honestly, that's just the first test hand though, and honestly that's the standard end board you'll have. You'll normally have the Rusty Bardiche, the Appaloosa, and the Utopic Future Draco on board. So yeah, just the first test hand, like honestly we did pretty well. Like opening the graph sucked, but we opened the tour guide, so we were able to special summon it with the tour guide and then just go into full combo from there. But I chose to go a different way, a weird way, and yeah, it may not be the most conventional, but it ends on the best board possible. So yeah, not bad, not bad. And also the best part about that hand was we had plays for next turn, because we had a Cloak engrave and we also had the Torn Scales engrave, which allows us to have a lot of different utility plays next turn too, which I really do like about this deck. Like you go full combo turn 1 and you still can do things. Like that's one of the good things about this deck as well that I really like. So yeah, but that's just the first test hand. Let's go on to the second one now, where I'll go a bit faster because obviously the first one had a bit of explaining in it. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what the next hand will be. So we go 1, we go 2, we go 3, we go 4, we go 5. And in all honesty, not a hand that I would normally want to open, but it's not the worst hand. Like honestly, it's actually a pretty decent hand. The only thing that I kind of hate that I'm gonna have to do is we're gonna have to normal summon the Ash Blossom to guarantee that we can do everything we really want to do. So yeah, let's see what we can do. So we start off by summoning the Ash Blossom in attack position, and then we use the emergency teleport to special summon 1 psychic monster from our deck. And the psychic monster we're going to summon from our deck is the Wielder, because he has the weaker attack out of Tracker and Wielder. So yeah, we go ahead and summon the Wielder. Then we're going to go ahead and link these two to go into our Cherubini. That's not Cherubini, our Cherubini right there. And then we're going to use the Cherubini effect to send 1 level 3 monster from our deck to the graveyard. The monster we're going to send from our deck to the graveyard will be really, we have to send the Graph here. Yeah, we send the Graph. So we're going to go ahead and send the Graph to grave. And then we're going to trigger the Graph, which will summon the Seer. Like so. Shuffle that up. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and link these two and make the Rusty Bardiche. We're going to trigger the Seer, which will summon out the Cherubini. And then we're going to go ahead and use the Rusty Bardiche's effect to go ahead and send 1 Phantom Knights card from our deck to the graveyard. The card we're going to send from our deck to the graveyard is going to be... You see, like, the only issue with this hand is that I can't get to Torn Scales and go pretty far. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make Appaloosa and rely on Appaloosa to just kind of like guarantee that we don't die. So I think that's the play that we're going to have to go for. So we're going to go ahead and send a Cloak to the graveyard, and then we're going to banish the Cloak. Well, first we have to set our card. The card we're going to set is the Shade Brigandine. No, we don't set the Shade Brigandine actually in this situation, because we can go ahead and get the Fog Blade, and the Fog Blade will allow us to just go ahead and have that negate function, seeing as we're not going to go ahead and need to do a lot with it. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do, actually no, what am I thinking? We do, because then we can make 4 material Appaloosa. So we go ahead and set the Shade Brigandine, we then banish the Cloak, and the Cloak will go ahead and grab us a Boots. So yeah, we get the Boots, and then we're going to go ahead and use the Boots' effect to special summon itself, and then trigger the Stained Greaves to special summon itself as well. This is the whole reason why I didn't normal summon, well, I didn't keep the Ash in hand, because if I normal summoned this, we wouldn't be able to get to this point where we can just go ahead and make a 5 material Appaloosa and still have plays for next turn. Because that's like the point of this board that I'm making. We're going to have plays for next turn, and we're also going to have a really big Appaloosa. So now we're going to overlay these two, and we're going to make the Levianair the Sea Dragon, and we're going to use the Levianair to detach the Boots and special summon back the Ancient Cloak. And then going to use the Ancient Cloak effect to turn into defense to boost the attack of our Shade Brigandine. Sorry, not our Shade Brigandine, our Rusty Bardiche. I'm mixing up names left and right. Just a new deck, you know, I've got to remember all the names. And then we're going to go ahead and use the Rusty Bardiche, because we have no spells, not the Rusty Bardiche, the Shade Brigandine. I'm mixing up the names, in defense mode. And then we're going to go ahead and link all of these into an Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, on 4 materials. You could have done it with 3 and kept the Levianair, but I personally would rather have an additional negate if I'm going first, because that means if my opponent's playing a combo deck, or my opponent's playing something like Sorcerer, or just something along those lines, then I have that additional negate to go ahead and try and prevent my opponent from playing the game. And then after that, we go ahead and banish from our graveyard these Silent Boots to allow us to get a Fogblade from our deck to our hand, and then pretty much what we do from there, we just set our entire hand and pass, because we have a Fogblade, we have a Droplets, and we have a Called by the Grave, and if our opponent had Ash or something, we could have stopped the Called by the Ash as well. And the good thing about this whole hand and this end board is that, well, yeah, we've got 4 negates, we've got the Rusty Bardi to go for next turn things, and we've also got the Fogblade to have additional droplets in this. But the best part about this hand that we made is we have the Cloak Engrave to go ahead and guarantee full combos next turn, because we're going to draw a random card from our deck, like it'll be an Effect Veiler, but then all we're going to do is we're going to banish the Cloak, we're going to get Torn Scale, and then the Torn Scale will allow us to just go full off, and that's just really, really good, and I really like that fact. So yeah, second hand's really strong. It didn't have the Utopic Future Draco, sadly. There was no real way I could see us getting to it, because obviously we have to use the Torn Scales, we have to use all the other things to go ahead and guarantee that we can get to the point that we were at. But nonetheless, it was a very, very good hand. Like 2 level 3s is able to make a pretty good board like that, and I like it. Like, honestly, we can make out 3 Material Appaloosa most of the time with 1 Fogblade, but because we had the Stained Greaves in hand, we were able to make a full Material Appaloosa. Like, that's the only difference there. And if I really wanted to, we could have just had 2 Fogblades instead, which might have been better, but I tend to like to have Fogblades in the deck because it allows me to banish the boots later on, to guarantee that I have a search to then summon back the Torn Scale from the graveyard and just do things with it there. So yeah, not a bad second test hand, like very good hand, like very good combos. It's just obviously you had to normal the Ash Blossom. Like with that hand, if you didn't normal the Ash, you would have to do other things, and like that's not as good as I would want it. But yeah, Stained Greaves, like you could have kept the Ash in hand, I guess, as well. Like it's probably been better because 3 Material Appaloosa with a Fogblade, and it isn't bad. Like 3 Material Appaloosa, Fogblade, Ash is not bad because Ash can do a lot more, but I just like the fact that Ash is just a really useful level 3 monster in this deck, to be honest. But yeah, let's go on to the final test hand here, see what we get. Hopefully it isn't a brick, because obviously you always find bricks, but we'll see what we get. So we got an Impermanence, a Boots, which is nice, Ash Blossom again, Cross-Out Designator, and an Ash Blossom. You know, I said let's not brick. And what does the deck go and do? The deck goes ahead and bricks. So yeah, pretty much all you can do with this hand is literally just set an Ash Blossom, set the Imperm, and set... No, you wouldn't set the cross out, and then just pass turn, because there's nothing else you can do. All you can do is set this, and pass. But if we go second though, which is this is a going second hand, if we go second, we just go full combo, because we can go ahead and use the boots, we got the tour guide, and we can do everything. And we even got the cross out to prevent like Ash Blossoms and stuff, because we run free Ash. So yeah, that hand is garbage, but going second, absolutely insane. So not too upset about that if I go second. But if I go first, I'm very upset. I can't play the game. I can stop my opponent from playing the game. No, not completely, but quite a bit, but not enough. But yeah. Let's go ahead and get a different test hand. Hopefully it'll be better. Put these 2 cards back in, because we don't want to have cards falling out, and see what our last hand is going to look like. So go ahead and fan these out. 5 cards. Last test hand. Don't be a brick again. So we got a Fogblade, an Ash Blossom, a Called by the Grave, Forbidden Droplets, and a Torn Scale. So this is actually a good hand to just go ahead and showcase what the deck is capable of just 1 Torn Scale. So, well, Torn Scale plus 1 card. So we're going to go ahead and use this hand and see what happens. And also we will be discarding the Fogblade and most likely be using it, but it's needed for the deck, so you kind of have to. But yeah, so let's go ahead and see what we can do with just the 1 Torn Scale. So we're going to go ahead and normal the Torn Scale, and we're going to use it and discard the Fogblade. We're going to go ahead and send from our deck to the graveyard a Ancient Cloak, wherever it is. There it is, the Ancient Cloak, and then we're going to banish it, which will allow us to add a Boots from our deck to our hand. We're then going to go ahead and obviously special summon the Boots, and then we're going to go ahead and link these 2 into the Cherubini. We're then going to go ahead and use Cherubini's effect to go ahead and send from our deck to the graveyard a level 3 monster. The level 3 monster doesn't really matter here. Like, you could send a Burning Abyss, you can send whatever you want, but we will send the Burning Abyss just because they are the best cards to send with Cherubini if you haven't got the Tour Guide. You don't want to draw them because they also come up as bricks a lot. So we send the Graph, and then we're going to summon the Seer. So we've got Graph and Seer. We're then going to go ahead and link these two to go ahead and make the Rusty Bardiche again. We'll then go ahead and trigger the Seer, which is going to summon back the Cherubini, and then we're going to use the Rusty Bardiche, which will send a Phantom Knights monster from our deck to the graveyard, and then set us a Phantom Knights card. The monster we're going to send to the graveyard with our hand is going to be the Ragged Gloves. So we send the Ragged Gloves to the graveyard. We're then going to go ahead and set to the board a Shade Brigandine. I'm just mixing up all the names again. Shade Brigandine. And from there, we are going to banish from our graveyards the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. And we're going to go ahead and search from our deck to our hand a Phantom Knights Trap. The trap we're going to get is a Fogblade. And then we're going to trigger the Tawnscale Engrave to special summon itself. After that, we have a couple of things we could potentially do, but none of them are really amazing. Like, what we really need is one more monster. Like, Tawnscale on its own can do a lot, but we can't go as far as I would really like to go. So what we're just going to have to try and do here is play with what we've got. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and banish the Fogblade. We're going to banish the Fogblade, which will allow us to summon from the graveyard a Silent Boots. That's the banish zone. We'll summon the Ragged Gloves. So I did kind of make a mistake there, because if we didn't open the Fogblade, you would have to go ahead and use the Fogblade. Obviously, you won't. If we didn't banish the Fogblade, if we didn't banish the boots to search the Fogblade, we would have guaranteed another material to go ahead and summon with this. Because pretty much what I'm saying is, if we didn't banish the Fogblade, we would have banished the Ragged Gloves instead, and then just gone ahead and send a Fogblade to the graveyard, and then special summon the boots, so we still get to this point. But we go ahead and then just summon the Ragged Gloves because we discarded the Fogblade off the Torn Scales. So yeah, but we go ahead and summon those, and then we're going to go ahead and with what we have, I think it's just Appaloosa Pass, to be honest. 4 material Appo Pass. Because we can't do an insane amount again. Like, it's actually kind of annoying that we can't do as much as I would really like to. But, like, 4 material Appo Pass is not a bad thing whatsoever. We use the Ancient Cloak, boost this, and then we just go ahead and flip the Shade, special summon the Shade, and then we go ahead and use all of these to make a 4 material Appaloosa. But yeah, like, honestly, surprisingly enough, I didn't really ever get to these hands when I was playing in the 1K the other day. But these are possible hands, and after that, what we do is we just go ahead and, well, we've got all the plays for next turn, which is really, really nice. And also, guys, I'm just saying now, if we open one more Phantom Knight monster, it would be Appaloosa on free materials and the Utopic feature on board. But because we didn't, we just go ahead and set the card that we have in hand, which is a Droplets, a Cool Buy, and a Fogblade, and we also have an Ash in hand. So, honestly, not a bad test hand. The hand is obviously not as good as I want because I want to get the future Draco on the board, but 4 material Appo, Called by the Grave, Droplets, Fogblade, Ash Blossom, and then plays for next turn with, like, searching any of our Phantom Knight monsters, the Torn Scale to go ahead and send anything to graveyard, Ragged Gloves to send anything to the graveyard. Like, we loaded, we can't complain. So yeah, and even next turn our draw is going to be the Stained Greed, so that's even more special summon potential. But yeah, guys, that is the hand testing video, though. Honestly, did not expect to do 2 hands where I make 4 material Appaloosa. Like, it is possible, and it's not the board that I really expected to make, because, like, honestly, this deck can go insane, and just having, like, a hand where we opened, like, technically, that could have been done with 1.5 cards as well. Like, 4 material Appo with 1.5 cards, like, and we would have an additional, yeah, we just discarded a different card. But like, I just did it in a weird way, and I explained it in a weird way where if I didn't banish the boots when I did, I could have just used the Ragged Gloves, send the Fogblade to the graveyard, and then just go ahead and have, you know, the boots on board, make the Levianair, and then just go from there. But yeah, like, that's all I really have to say, guys. In all honest opinion, like, I think this deck is really, really cool. I think the combos in this deck are really good as well. And in all honesty, in this format where Sword Soul are here, where Flunderies are here, where mirror matches of the Phantom Knights are here, and where just a load of monster generic decks are here, I think this deck is really, really strong. So guys, tell me what your thoughts are on this hand testing video in the comment section below. Do you think the deck's really, really strong? Do you think you could do better? Do you think maybe, oh, you just drew the one card combos and you were able to go nuts, and even one hand you use your entire hand, so you had to, it's not that great? But in all honesty, guys, this deck is really, really strong. You can do a lot of these things with literally like 1 to 2 cards most of the time, and I really do like that fact about the deck. But guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Robot1, signing out. Later all.